God's wrath is about to be revealed from heaven upon all ungodliness and unrighteousness, on men who suppress the truth in their hearts about God in their unrighteousness. For that which can be known about God from everyday experience is obvious to them, because God has made it obvious. His nature, though invisible, is nevertheless plainly apparent, and has been since his foundation of the world, for it may be clearly inferred from this creation of his. This is true of both his eternal power and his divinity, so that they are without any excuse. They knew about God, but they neither honored him as God nor thanked him. Instead, they gave themselves over to the vanity of this world in their speculations, and their senseless hearts were filled with darkness. Claiming to be wise, they became foolish, for they exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for images and likenesses of corruptible men, of birds and beasts and reptiles. For this very reason, God abandoned them to corruption in the lusts of their own hearts, that they might mutually defile their bodies, that is, the very thing they lusted to do. And so they exchanged the truth of God for the lie of the devil, and worshipped and served the creature Satan in place of the Creator, who is worthy to be blessed forever. Amen. Yes, for this very reason God abandoned them to defiling passions. For their females exchanged natural relations for unnatural ones, and likewise also the males abandoned natural relations with the female, and burned with desire one for another, males for males, acting out their shamefulness in full, and in their own flesh fully receiving the reward due for their error. And just as they did not see fit to keep God in their hearts, God abandoned them to their unfit minds, to do things which are not fitting, filled up with every sort of unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, guile, maliciousness, gossips, slanderers, God-forsaken and forsaking, insolent, arrogant, boasters, devisers of evils, not concerned for their parents, unthinking, unreconcilable, uncaring, unmerciful. Men who, though they had full knowledge of God's righteous decree, namely, that those who do such things are worthy of death, not only did such things themselves, but even commended those who made it their practice to do them. Romans 1:18-32. For whenever the Gentiles who do not have the law do by nature the things written in the law, these who have no law are a law for themselves. For they demonstrate that the essence of the law has been written in their hearts, when their conscience testifies against them, and their mental deliberations based on conscience alternatively either condemn them or acquit them. This examination of Romans 2:11-15 will take place on the day when God will judge the secret things of men through Jesus Christ, according to my gospel. Romans 2:14-16. It is appointed unto men to die once, and after that judgment is in store. Hebrews 9:27. The destruction of the universe and the interlude of final judgment. The last resurrection of the saved and the unsaved. At the end of the 1,000-year millennial reign of Jesus Christ, there will be a complete cleansing of his threshing floor, the post-millennial complement to the Second Advent's baptism of fire, Mark 1:8. At this time all stumbling blocks will be removed from the Messiah's kingdom and cast into eternal fire in preparation for the commencement of the eternal kingdom, wherein there will be no evil or unbelief forevermore, a cleansing which requires a prior resurrection and judgment of the unsaved. His winnowing fan is in his hand, and he will sweep clean his threshing floor and will gather his wheat into the barn, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. Matthew 3:12. The wheat are believers, the chaff unbelievers. Bringing the one group into the barn and burning up the other requires the prior resurrection of both and their individual evaluation, an evaluation for reward in the case of believers, but one of judgment for unbelievers. Once again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was let down into the lake and caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, the fishermen pulled it up on the shore. Then they sat down and collected the good fish in baskets, but threw the bad away. This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous, and throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Matthew 13:47-48. The end of the age is the end of human history, coterminous with the end of the millennium. As in the case of John's analogy to the threshing floor, saving the good fish and throwing out the bad requires their prior resurrection, represented by the collecting of all who remain at the end of the age by the net, and general evaluation, represented by the fishermen who examine the fish to determine their category, good or bad. This initial separation into two essential categories, accomplished by angels in the passage given, is also represented in the sheep and goats judgment, where the Lord will separate the two groups prior to their specific individual judgment. Matthew 25:31-33. The parable of the net also places the disposition of the wicked last in the order of these final events. That is, they are thrown into the fiery furnace, the lake of fire, only after the righteous have been collected. Thus, in this passage, we have the same sequence as implied by the sheep and goats judgment, John the Baptist's description, and our context, Revelation 20:11-15. Resurrection of both groups, that is, all as yet non-resurrected believers, along with all the unsaved from the beginning of human history. Separation by group, wheat from chaff, sheep from goats, good from bad fish. Salvation and evaluation of the righteous. Judgment and final disposition of the unrighteous into the lake of fire. Furthermore, we know from our context, Revelation 20:11, from his presence the earth and the heavens fled, and no place was found for them, that before the last judgment the old heavens and old earth will be destroyed. 2 Peter 3:5-13, revealing everything that transpired in all prior history. 2 Peter 3:10, and that it is only after the completion of this entire process that the new heavens and new earth will be created, and eternity will thus begin. Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. The owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. The servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" "No," he answered, "because while you are pulling the weeds, you may root up the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned. Then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn." Then he left the crowd and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field." He answered, "The one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed stands for the sons of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin, and all who do evil. They will throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear." Matthew 13:24-30 and 13:36-43. The parable of the wheat and the tares, weeds, presents an identical sequence of events, only somewhat more detailed. The kingdom of heaven is the Messiah's millennial kingdom, wherein unbelievers, tares, weeds, grow up in close proximity to believers, wheat. The harvest is the resurrection, step 1, wherein the weeds are separated from the wheat and are prepared for but not committed to the fire, step 2. The righteous are gathered into the barn, step 3, and the wicked are then cast into the lake of fire, following the last judgment, step 4. Finally, this parable adds the additional detail of showing us the righteous, after the conclusion of this entire 4-step process, now enjoying life everlasting in the eternal state, in the kingdom of their Father, that is, the new heavens and new earth, as opposed to the kingdom of heaven, the prior millennial kingdom. For given that we know from our context in Revelation chapters 21 and 22 that the Father will only be present on earth after human history has concluded, the kingdom of their Father, mentioned here as the place where the righteous will shine like the sun, must certainly be the eternal kingdom of New Jerusalem.